Hey, this is Stephanie from the Millennial Renaissance Woman. This is my first YouTube video. We're going to be doing some maintenance on a couple pairs of really old cowboy boots here while I talk to you about who I am and stuff. I'm going to start off saying this isn't sponsored by the company with the boot conditioner anyway. They have no idea who I am. You have no idea who I am. We'll start by talking about the boots and this sweet product, and then I'll babble about myself while I use it. There's a boot in front of me. You can't see it because I'm on my phone. This is Black Rock Leather and Rich. It's this pretty rad boot conditioner, water repellent stuff. It's all in one. Cleans all kinds of cool things. They make it in Tennessee, and you can find it online or at literally any saddle shop. I think we buy it at a saddle shop, to be honest with you. The boots we're going to be doing today are my husband's boots, which are these sweet vintage Tony Llamas. From what I can gather, they're pre-1960s. They were from when they were manufactured in Mexico. He's 90% sure they're muleskin, so it's a really thin leather. It's pretty delicate. These weren't in great shape when we got them, and they're basically his daily boot, so they're not in great shape now. And then we have my sweet little riding boots. These are from the Santa Fe Boot Company. Biggest reason you gotta take care of your old boots is that leather is basically skin. You know, it's just that it's not alive anymore, so it can't do the cool stuff that skin can do, like produce oils. So you got to put an extra oil on it. If you get a good enough product, it'll actually like seal up all the cracks and things like lotion would on your hands, or help do. So that's pretty rad, and it keeps your boots around for, at this point, as long as my parents have been alive. Yep. So your first step here is to kind of get off all the extra dirt, which I think he actually already did for me. As much as you can. Some of it's kind of ground in, but it'll come out with the product. And then all the instructions for Black Rock are on the back of their cool little tin. So that's neat. I don't know if we'll have enough. Just rub this in like a thin layer with your fingers. And just let that get all up in the leather. Clean it, condition it, soak in. Then later we're going to go back through with that paper towel and we're going to wipe off all the excess. So, a little bit about me. I live in the West, Rocky Mountain West. It's different from the actual West, which is different from the West Coast, but it's also different from the Midwest. It's pretty much between the Midwest and the actual West. It's pretty easy to find on a map because there's a giant mountain strip that runs through. We're named after. But yeah, the land that I live in, the valley that I live in, once belonged to the Northern Arapaho, Northern Cheyenne, the Eastern Shoshone, and the White River Utes, and the Oglala Sioux. Land acknowledgement is important, kids. I'm a cook. Locally in town. I used to run a blog about Skyrim, which got me really into the historical side of cooking. So then I went down this whole rabbit hole of researching the group of people that they based the Skyrim Nords on, which would be the Vikings, and their historic trade routes and what spices they had access to locally or through trade. That got me into looking up more historical food in my area, which is not easy to do. There's not a lot of like written, what did the first colonial settlers of Wyoming eat, let alone like the list of native people that I just gave you. Unless you're part of those people. So that's where I fall in with like the history bounding people, is more food than clothing. I am not great at sewing. I did go to fashion design school. I ran an industrial sewing machine like across a section of my hand somehow, and it was bad. And I did not go back to sewing class. And so I've made a pillow successfully. So that's neat. Yeah. So I mostly just thrift my clothes and try to put things together in that way. But I'm a lot more interested in, I'm just gonna put it up here, in the food stuff than I am the clothing stuff, because the food stuff I can actually do. I cannot do clothing stuff. I can also refinish furniture. My family has been big into antiques like my whole life, and I have a couple pieces that I've redone, one myself and one with my dad, and they are amazing, and I really enjoy doing all that. So I feel like there will probably be a lot of that coming up on this channel, like big watch me restore an entire bedroom set, because I need a new bedroom set, and potentially we'll be building on to this farm that we live on. And that was basically the reason I started this channel, is because I wanted to document the reclaim building materials that we'll be using and kind of just like shine a light on that. But until that gets started, I figure we'll just do all of the other small old stuff restoration projects I have waiting around my house currently, starting with boots, which need to be done more often than they have been getting done. And then moving on back into cooking. For people who don't want to read long blog posts about how to make stuff, you can listen to me babble instead while I teach you how to make stuff. Alright, so when you get done wiping it all in, you're gonna want to take like a towel, or like a paper towel or a rag, and you're going to want to wipe off all of the excess black rock. And it's going to take off a lot of the excess dirt that didn't come out when you wiped it off the first time. It's gonna, so that's where it really helps with kind of deep cleaning it. As you can kind of see from the beginning of the video, it looks significantly different than it did. It didn't seal up all the cracks. I'll probably have to go over it again later, but that's just because they were so dry. Like, we live in a desert, so it was so dry. My takeaway from this is that first time things are scary. So hopefully this is something new.